In this video, I'm going to react to the Major League Baseball catcher who couldn't throw. Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Kabir Considers. This is the place where I react to music, media, sports, anime, anything related to popular culture. I'll watch it with an open mind and give you my 100% honest reaction to it. And if you could please hit that like button early, I'd really appreciate it. So this is going to be a really interesting video because when I was recommended this one, initially I was like, hang on a minute, how are you going to be a catcher in the major leagues and not be able to throw? But then I thought maybe Foolish Baseball didn't mean literally he can't throw the ball, but maybe he's got poor accuracy. Maybe maybe he's got a very low percentage in terms of getting it to whoever he wants to get it to. And I love Foolish Baseball's videos. He's really got a great way of delivering the information he's trying to, very concise, but in a really entertaining way as well. So when I was recommended this video, I knew I needed to put it near the top of my list. So let's go. It's going to be me reacting to the Major League Baseball catcher who couldn't throw. Let's do it.
The 2012 Pittsburgh Pirates were a mess. They led their division at the All-Star break only to
Okay, so they got a 48-37 record here.
completely fall apart and finish the season with a losing record.
Oh man.
And they had a catcher who couldn't throw out a base stealer to save his life. Rod Barajas was the Buccos' primary backstop. He'd actually been average at throwing out runners throughout his career, but that season, he surrendered 93 stolen bases while only catching 6 would-be base stealers. That's a 94% success rate for those who ran on him. As we'll learn later on, those 6 caught stealings are highly suspect. The veteran Barajas had been brought in to replace Ryan Domit, who is one of the weirdest baseball players in his own right. Domit was admired for his great hitting at the catcher position. But when sabermetricians began tracking catcher framing and retroactively
Did he just hit him in the face?
applying it to past seasons, Domit was revealed to be perhaps the least valuable player in modern baseball history. In terms of WAR, he would have been way better off as a designated hitter. But of course, this video isn't about Ryan Domit, rather his replacement, Rod Barajas. That's right, the Pirates replaced the worst catcher ever with something even more peculiar. The catcher who couldn't throw.
Let's go.
If you steal bases, how efficient should you be? It depends on the situation, but the accepted shorthand answer to this complicated problem is a 75% success rate. If you successfully steal in 75% or more of your attempts, you're likely helping your team. If your success rate is less than that, you're likely hurting them. Over the past half-century, Major League Baseball has toiled to achieve that 75% mark. In 1967, teams averaged 0.7 attempts per game and were successful about 60% of the time. They really didn't know what they were doing. They were basically winging it.
And I imagine, back then, keeping stats was probably way lower of a priority, I imagine. Let me know in the comment section, when did the major leagues really start to keep their eye on statistics and numbers and things like this? I would wager it's probably maybe the 90s? Let me know.
Fast forward 15 years, and 1982 was during the peak of league-wide base stealing. That was when Rickey broke the single-season record for steals with 130. Attempts and efficiency increased. 1997 produced similar numbers. Attempts were still over 1 per game, and base stealers were successful 68% of the time, still short of that 75% mark. Which leads us to 2012, the year of Rod Barajas' misfortune. 0.9 attempts per game, 73.9% success rate. Stolen base attempts are clearly declining league-wide in search of overall efficiency. In fact, in 2020, teams averaged 0.65 attempts per game with 75.2% success rate. Of course, there's no need to worry about efficiency if the catcher can't throw. Opponents stole bases against Rod Barajas with an unprecedented combination of volume and efficiency. If we pretend that Barajas was every base runner who ran against him in 2012, he'd crush even the most efficient seasons from history's greatest base stealers.
Wow.
Combined with backup catcher Michael McHenry, yeah, we've really come full circle here on baseball bits. The 2012 Pirates surrendered the most stolen bases by any National League team that decade, while only throwing out 11% of attempted thieves. I've sorted through a lot of low bitrate 360p footage to piece together exactly what happened here. I just want to prepare you all for low quality video of a man failing to throw out base runners while clearly having some sort of philosophical crisis. Perhaps I'll cleanse the palate with some HD footage of a runner getting thrown out. It's only fair. If you watch enough of these Barajas stolen bases, you begin to ask yourself, how did he even manage to throw out 6 base runners? Well, here's the thing. He didn't. On April 13th, Rod Barajas threw out Nate Shearholtz of the Giants. The footage has been scrubbed, likely by old Bobby Manfred himself.
What? Is he being sick? Like, why was the footage deleted? Suspicious.
He doesn't want you to see it. Luckily, I have the other 5. April 30th against the Braves. Michael Bourne is on first base, and this is basically a dream matchup. Over a 5-year stretch from 2008 to 2012, Bourne led Major League Baseball in steals by a large margin. The Braves attempt what must have been a hit and run. It doesn't work, and by some miracle, Rod Barajas throws out Michael Bourne. Except he didn't. Instant replay shows that Bourne was
he gets there first. He definitely gets there first.
Incorrectly called out when he was, in fact, safe. There was no replay review at the time to overturn it, so it goes down in the books as a caught stealing, even though Bourne swiped it cleanly.
I mean, if you're Bourne, that's got to really sting, just because you know for a fact that you were safe.
July 6th against the Giants. Justin Christian attempts to steal second, and it's just a good, clean throw. Can't really say anything else about this one. July 13th against the Brewers. Nyjer Morgan attempts to steal second, and it's not as perfect as the other one, but it works all the same. So far, assuming that April 13th was legit, he's 3 for 4 on these caught steals. But then came August 5th. Pirates are playing the Reds, who have Ryan Ludwig on base. Let's see what happens here. Oh, and he's in a rundown, and he's out. The pitcher, AJ Burnett, caught Ludwig in no man's land on the pickoff. This shouldn't be a caught stealing. By rule, it is. Had Ryan Ludwig dove back to first base and been tagged out, it would have simply been a pickoff. But because Ludwig was tagged out attempting to advance to second, Rod Barajas is credited with a caught stealing on a play where he didn't even touch the baseball.
I'm going to need someone who's really experienced in baseball, because this is where my lack of knowledge of the sport. So basically, because of a rule, it wasn't caught. It was counted as a base steal, when in all actuality, it wasn't really a base steal. But why though? Let me know in the comment section, please.
That's not legit. August 27th against the Cardinals, John Jay on first, and oh no, it's happening again. It's happening again. Oh dearie me, another bogus caught stealing for Barajas. So even though the record books have him throwing out 6 runners,
it's really 3, isn't it? 3 or 4? Yeah, 3.
I can only credit him for 3. That is upsetting. Somebody's got to make him pay for this, right? There was one team that had Barajas figured out, and boy, did they make his life miserable.
I'm surprised that Barajas' team didn't replace him. I mean, surely there's things in place that you can, replace guys who aren't performing in baseball in your teams, right?
The 2012 Pirates had 7 games where they got absolutely bullied on the base paths. I define these as games with 4 or more stolen bases against without any runners caught. 4 of those 7 games came in a span of a few weeks against the same opponent, the Milwaukee Brewers. Let's watch a couple. September 1st, AJ Burnett is on the mound, Carlos Gomez takes off for second base, and Barajas fails to transfer the ball from mid to hand. There's no throw. While standing on second, Carlos Gomez thinks to himself, that was pretty easy, I guess I'll steal third. Then he steals third.
Wow.
Later in the game, Ryan Braun is on first, and AJ Burnett does a lazy pickoff move. Yeah, that'll stop him, AJ. Braun steals second. Ricky Weeks caps off the day with a steal of his own. He picks the perfect pitch to run on, and there's no throw from Barajas. Fast forward to
No throw? That can't be normal, right?
September 18th. AJ Burnett on the mound again. Nori Aoki is the game's first base runner, and he knows exactly what to do. At this point, Rod Barajas begins to wonder where it all went wrong. Unsurprisingly, Ryan Braun decides to follow suit. It's not a bad throw from Barajas, but Braun is still safe. Alright, enough.
What is it like? It seems like Barajas, when he throws, he doesn't put enough zip on the ball. His ball, the baseball tends to have too much of an arch to it. Like, if it had more of a straight line trajectory, I feel like he'd get more, he'd have more success.
Enough of this pixelated crap. Here's a catcher throwing out a base runner in HD. Ah, it's like a breath of fresh air. Alright, we're going back in. Ryan Braun steals second. Again. It's a good pitch to run on and a bad Barajas throw. Chad Qualls comes in during the top of the 7th, and Ricky Weeks immediately swipes a bag. Oh, look. Ryan Braun's on base again. Surely he won't. Oh, he will.
Wow.
Neil Walker almost makes a crazy tag, but Braun steals second for the 3rd time today. Jonathan Lucroy commits catcher-on-catcher violence by swiping a base of his own. Carlos Gomez tacks on the Brewers' 7th steal of the game. With their
even I know that that's not normal. 7 steals in one game.
clever choice of camera angles, you can tell the broadcast always knows what's about to go down. The Brewers absolutely racked up steals against the Pirates. Their league-leading stolen base total was generated at the expense of Barajas and the Buccos. Milwaukee stole 34 bases in just 15 games against Pittsburgh. On surface level, we're just watching the Brewers mercilessly bully a 37-year-old catcher. But once I studied enough film, I came to a completely different conclusion. What if this mess isn't the fault of Rod Barajas? What if he's just the fall guy? Pop time. No, not that one. Pop time is how scouts measure a catcher's ability to throw out base runners. Simply put, it's the amount of time between 2 pops. The pop of the pitch in the catcher's mitt, and the pop of the ball in the middle infielder's glove at second base. In the pop time world, 1/10 of a second is a big deal, and 2/10 is an eternity. It's most frequently measured with a stopwatch in non-game situations, often resulting in unrealistic results. That's how you get baseball dads who think their teenage son is the next Yadier Molina.
That's the thing. If you're using a stopwatch, a manual stopwatch, human beings, we're not as efficient as computers. You know, a computer with a sensor of some kind will, you know, the margin for error will be so small, whereas a guy, just some dude, he's got to see it, then press the button, see the ball hit the other guy's mitt, press the button again. There's just so much margin for error, you know, when you're dealing with such tiny amounts of time.
Thankfully, StatCast tracks it at the major league level, removing the human element in the process. In 2019, the best catcher by average pop time was JT Realmuto. That seems about right. He threw out nearly half the base runners who stole on him that season. The worst pop time belonged to the veteran Stephen Vogt, who was recovering from major shoulder surgery.
That's crazy. So he's the best guy, he's the worst guy, yet there are only 0.27 seconds. So a quarter of a second. No, something like that. Half a second between them. It's not that much in real world terms.
The gap between elite and average, about 1/10 of a second, as the average MLB catcher has a pop time of 2 seconds flat. Remember that number. The gap between average and poor doesn't seem like much either, but those fractions of a second make all the difference. So how bad was Barajas? I timed 10 relatively accurate throws to second base, counting frame by frame. You know what I got for the catcher who couldn't throw? I got 2 seconds flat. He was average?
Average.
This is a revelation. Rod Barajas was around average at getting the ball to second base, yet he couldn't throw out a runner if his life depended on it. So where did all that time go? In measuring pop time, we're measuring catchers. In Pittsburgh, we should have been measuring pitchers. Pitcher, pop time. Let's measure how long it takes to deliver a pitch out the stretch. The control will be Steven Strasburg. Strasburg is right-handed and has been perfectly average at preventing steals throughout his career. I timed a variety of different pitch types from a variety of different Strasburg starts between 2018 and 2019. The commonality was a runner on first base. The average time between the beginning of his motion, which is when his front leg moves, and the pop in the catcher's mitt was 1.53 seconds. Now let's do the same with the 2012 Pirates ace, AJ Burnett. Over the course of 10 stolen bases, it took him 1.68 seconds on average to get the ball to Barajas. Wow. That is absolutely massive. In terms of catcher pop time, those 15/100ths of a second are enough to make an average catcher the worst in the league. All along, it was Burnett getting
fine margins
brutalized by the Brewers, and he wasn't even the worst Pirates pitcher at holding runners. Base stealers were 17 for 17 against Jared Hughes, and that beautiful man only tossed 75 innings. We also haven't addressed the quality of pitches for throwing out these base stealers. What's the ideal pitch to throw out a runner? High fastball. That's basically what a pitch out is. But the 2010s Pirates were like, high fastball? Never heard of her. They pitched low in the zone because they really craved ground balls. AJ Burnett himself is a great example. He experienced a career resurgence in Pittsburgh by throwing more sinkers than four-seamers. Rod Barajas was dealing with bad locations from slow pitchers, and it was all by design. He was the catcher who couldn't throw, but only because he played on the team that couldn't throw. And here's the crazy thing, it might have been worth it.
It's funny, just like how this is, it's become less of a Rod Barajas problem and an actual team issue. So maybe they just, I feel a bit bad for laughing at him at the start of the video.
What the 2012 Pirates really did was punt the very idea of throwing out base runners, chucking Rod Barajas under the bus in the process. I mean, look at this. What is this? How is this Rod Barajas' fault? AJ Burnett trusted the process. After that infamous game in which the Brewers swiped 7 bags against his Pirates, he reiterated that his focus was purely on making pitches, not holding base runners. If he executed his pitches, the steals wouldn't matter. At first glance, the 2012 Pirates didn't pitch any better with runners on than the National League as a whole. Both parties were about 40 OPS points worse than they were with the bases empty. But then, there's the percentage of runners left on base. If wily base runners were free to move about the base paths with Barajas behind the dish, one might expect them to have an exceptionally good chance of scoring. Yet, they didn't. The Pirates were very much middle of the pack at keeping runners on base from scoring runs. They were also middle of the pack in straight up runs allowed, which is a solid outcome for a pretty ragtag group of pitchers. Despite the organization's eventual failures with Morton, Cole, and Glasnow, they got a lot out of veteran pitchers with diminished stuff. Ultimately, it's shocking that this obvious weak point wasn't exploited more. The Pirates led the league in stolen bases allowed, but not by a huge margin. Apart from getting embarrassed by the Brewers, they mostly got away with having a catcher who couldn't throw. Barajas and the Pirates parted ways after that bizarre
Yeah, it does seem strange that other teams wouldn't really exploit Barajas and the team's glaring weakness.
2012 season. Pittsburgh responded by inking a 2-year deal with Russell Martin, who was productive both as a hitter and behind the dish. With Martin in tow, the Buccos broke their streak of 20 consecutive losing seasons, won the wildcard game, and saw Andrew McCutchen win MVP. All this just 1 year after they couldn't throw out a base runner. As for Barajas, he called it quits the following spring. The newly retired backstop began coaching in the Padres system. In 2020, he served as the catching and quality control coach for San Diego, a team that, you guessed it, was among the league's best at throwing out would-be base stealers. Baseball.
Wow, that was really interesting. I mean, some of that was definitely a bit over my head just because I'm still new to the game, but from what I gleaned of it, it did seem that though Barajas had a weakness to his game, it was more to do with the way the team was set up. The team didn't set itself up to kind of exploit his strengths. Because and to me that's not really his fault. That's down to management, the coaches and things like that. But yeah, I'd love to know, let me know in the comment section, why didn't other teams exploit Barajas' inability to throw out base stealers? Like, I'd love to know because there's definitely a lot of learning that I need to do about the game. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, turn on bell notifications, And keep throwing the recommendations my way. I know I say it all the time, but they genuinely help me out because if I know you enjoyed watching something, I'll definitely enjoy reacting to it. So like, subscribe, turn on bell notifications, keep throwing the recommendations, and I'll catch you in the next one.